And now, from Shenango Valley Studios, coming to you live, one of the most talked about shows in the Shenango Valley, because it's the only show in the Shenango Valley. Your host, Sean Zipi with The Zip Code.
It has been a while, folks. It has been a while. But it feels good to be back. This chair right here with this sheet spanner behind myself. It reminds me of home. Here we go, folks. We got a great show for you tonight. We got none other than Justin Rosales from the Shenango Valley. And we're going to get to it in just a few minutes. But I do want to thank Sheets for the sponsorship. I also want to give a big shout out to Lem's Shoes as well. Here is the beautiful Boulder boot, the Minimalist Shoe Company. Thank you to Andrew Rademacher for the sponsorship of the show. And folks, it's been a while, but we are going to start ramping some guests up again. It just feels right. We've had a few people reach out to us and wanted to get on the show. We got a couple, maybe an extreme athlete coming up soon. We also have maybe Dolly that's going to come back on the show. She has all the farm animals. We're going to go out and visit her farm, which should be very exciting for all of us because that was one heck of an interview back in the day. So without further ado, let's get to Justin here. Let me bring him on the zip code. Get him in here. Thanks for tuning in, folks.
There we go.
There he is.
Hello, hello.
Justin, how are you, man?
I'm great, Sean. How about yourself?
I am doing well. Dude, thanks for coming on the zip code. Thanks for blessing us with your presence.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure. Always good to pop back into Shenango Valley from time to time. You know, it's a 9-hour drive from where I am, but it's great to be able to do it virtually.
So where are you located at now?
So now we're in a city called Fort Mill, South Carolina, but most people know Charlotte. So like when I used to live in Sharon, we would always say Pittsburgh, but Charlotte is actually like 10 minutes away from where we are in Fort Mill, South Carolina. So yeah, it's where we are nowadays.
Nice, man. Nice. So, I got a quick crazy story. My buddy Kyle Work was over. Shout out to Kyle Work. He was over at my house for a 4th of July cookout, and him and I,
Yeah.
he was wearing some some Merrell minimalist shoes, and him and I were just talking about feet, and back in the day I did a short stint with Lem's Shoes, so we were talking about feet and minimalist things, and all of a sudden he starts talking about Wim Hof. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know who that dude is. And so he starts telling me about ice and all this cold stuff. And I'm listening to him and I'm like, who is this dude? And and he continues and he's telling me about like half marathon and like him swimming and all this stuff. And then I think it was the next day you posted about the book and it was Wim Hof on the title. And I was like, what the heck? That's when I reached out to you. I'm like,
that's crazy.
Come on the zip code. Let's just talk about your experience with this dude. I have no idea who this guy is. Apparently he has a huge following. But yeah, I mean, it's very, very intriguing stuff. So let me,
small world, man.
Yeah. Heck yeah. So let's start out with this. We'll get into that in a little bit, but what are you doing right now?
Like nowadays, present day, what do I do? Yeah, so today I work at Elevation Church. It's a church based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. There's about 20 different campuses, but it kind of I found out about it when I was in Sharon. There's a big online ministry where just people are watching from around the world. So I am today the social media strategist for the church. But for the last 3 years that I've been on staff, prior to that, I was helping with watch parties, which is basically people gathering in homes or through Zoom during the pandemic and just kind of watching church together, building community digitally. So yeah, that's what I do now.
Nice. So when you moved to the Charlotte area, how long ago?
Man, June 30th, 2016. So we're 5 years now. 5 years, me and the fam.
Nice. And the fam consists of who now?
Yeah, so my wife, Megan, our daughter, Paige, she is 18. And then our baby girl, Gemma, she is 1 year old. I actually just put her to sleep a few minutes ago before hopping on.
Nice. Hopefully the zip code doesn't get too crazy to wake your baby up, man.
Nah, she's good. She's good. Thanks, though. Oh, I got some peeps jumping on. I see somebody from Penn State. I see Lekix.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
even know if I'm saying that right. That's cool. Got some peeps jumping on. Cool. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, so if at any point, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put that in the chat. We'll get to those at a certain point. And then we'll also do the world famous zip code rapid fire round, where Justin would put under pressure for a minute or two. People sweat through that, man.
I wasn't aware.
Yeah. So, somebody commented, it's Nitsa, I think. Oh, hey Nitsa, how you doing? Thanks for watching.
Nitsa! Hey Nitsa, good to see you. Nitsa's, if it is the Nitsa that I think that I know of, she's in Puerto Rico. So got somebody watching from all the way in Puerto Rico.
There we go. It's a global show, Justin. It's a global show.
That's right.
And so other interesting news. I knew a few of your brothers just from school and then church back in the day too. So this is the third Rosales brother that I'm getting to meet. Here we go.
Funny. One of my brother's birthdays is today, so it's cool. You probably know them.
God.
Small world, man. Small world.
Yeah. Shout out to your brother. Happy birthday, man. All right. So let's jump in. Let's jump in. So take me through maybe like post high school up until you finding out about who the heck Wim Hof is. And just so you guys know, I wanted to keep this as organic as possible. I didn't really even do much research about Wim Hof. I know very little because I'm very interested. So I want to just keep this as organic as possible. I don't have a billion questions for Justin. We're just going to roll with it. So give me a little bit of background here up until the point where you're like, hey, I got to reach out to this Wim Hof guy.
Sure. So first, Rose, good to see you. Rose and I went to Sharon together. So good to see you, Rose. Thanks for jumping on. So originally, all right, so I graduated from Sharon High School. I go to Penn State University. I did the whole Shenango Valley. You go to Penn State downtown for a couple of years. Well, I went there my senior year as kind of like a, dual enrollment before going off to Penn State University main campus. So went out there. I also was like volunteering as a Christian counselor at a summer camp in Erie called Camp Judson. And so like that was kind of a big part of it because for me, so for me, faith was a big part of it because like I just copy and pasted what anybody else told me most of my life. And one of my friends from Linesville, man, it's so funny to say these cities that like no one knows around here, but I know people, part of the Shenango Valley are going to recognize it. Anyway, Linesville, where all the fish are, my friend asked these little kids, hey, do you know it's okay to question what you believe? And I was like, that's actually no. Because like I thought I would go to heaven if I did all these things, right? And so that kind of rocked my world. And so like at that point, my friend was like, hey, you should read the Bible. And I like, how does this tie into Wim Hof? How does this tie into Iceman stuff? Well, after I started reading the Bible for myself, my friend told me that I should check out John 14:12. And in it, it's Jesus talking to his disciples saying, hey, I tell you the truth. Anyone who has faith in me will do what I have been doing. He will do even greater things than these because I'm going to the Father. And like, as I'm reading the Bible, finding out about Jesus, I'm learning about like, dudes walking on water, dudes healing people, like all of these things. And he's telling his disciples, you could do greater things than me than if you believe in me. So I'm like, I don't know if I believe that. And so it really became a challenge to me of like, I'm going to test it. I'm going to test the Bible, see if it's real for myself. People told me I should be doing this, shouldn't be doing this. I'm just going to test it for myself. So fast forward a couple of weeks, I'm back at Penn State University, and the same friend told me, his name is Jarrett Acklin. He told me, hey, you should check out this link. It's on YouTube. It's the Discovery Channel, and there's this guy that's running barefoot through the snow in like the polar circle. And I was like, cool, I'll check this out. So let me pause real quick. As a kid, when I was in Sharon, like I love video games, I love superheroes, I love all of the different things. This is like pre-Avengers, DC, love that stuff. But for me, my mom told me this story when I was little about how like this dude froze to death riding on a train in like 65-degree temperature. And 65, I mean, that's like a nice spring, summerish, depending if it's a cold summer, but spring day, right? Like, how are you going to freeze to death on a train in 65? But they did some research, and apparently this guy thought himself that it was freezing, like colder than it actually was, and thought himself to death by like freezing himself. So it's just interesting. It's like, okay, if he could freeze himself to death mentally, like, could you actually keep yourself warm in colder temperatures? So that thought stuck with me as a kid after hearing that story. So then fast forward back to Penn State years, I hear this story. I see Wim Hof. He's running a half marathon barefoot in the snow on the Discovery Channel. And they're telling the story saying this guy has a genetic defect, that he was born with this gene that allows him to be able to survive in extreme temperatures. And then they also kind of do like a sequence of like, this guy is climbing Mount Everest barefoot and in his shorts with no shirt on. This guy is like swimming under ice water for like 50 meters and like breaking world records for all of these different things. And they say it's a genetic defect, but something in me, like it reminded me of that story that I heard as a kid. And then also like, I'm just now reading the Bible feeling like I got to test something, right? And I was like, well, this dude's like doing crazy, impossible stuff. Let me try to take on something that's crazy and impossible and see if like God could apply it to this situation, which is interesting to me, and just see what could happen from it. So like it really became a faith journey for me. But that's like the first time that I was exposed to Wim Hof. Like, yeah. So that is like my junior year of college.
So your junior year of college, you were exposed to Wim Hof, and he's on the Discovery Channel doing all these crazy things, and you're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by this guy. Eventually, I need to reach out to him and see what the heck is going on with him. Are you thinking that yet?
No, not yet. I mean, this dude's on the Discovery Channel. Like, anybody I see on TV, I don't think they're very easy to get a hold of, you know? It's like, how am I even going to connect with this guy? So for me, it was more of like the concept, like the idea is what was interesting to me. And so I just started doing my own research. I started Googling stuff. And I say junior year, I think it was my sophomore year in college. But anyway, I started Googling stuff, and I said, like, how can you stay warm in cold temperatures? And Google was saying there's this thing called Tumo. And Tumo is like an Eastern Tibetan monk thing where basically it's like a breathing exercise. Also familiar with like yoga, but essentially the Tibetan monks would sit on the top of freezing mountains in Tibet, and they would put freezing wet blankets over their backs, and they would do this breathing exercise to keep themselves warm. And then their training was to dry the wet blankets on their back. And so Tumo is also known as inner fire. And so anytime you would Google Wim Hof or the Iceman, it would always like link to like Tumo. So the first step for me was actually figuring like just more of this stuff, because it was popping up on Google. So I just started Googling like, how can I learn from Tibetan monks? How can I learn what the Tibetan monks do? And then one day in the middle of psychology class, a seminar popped up in California. And, at the time I was like, I've never traveled before, but I really want to learn this stuff. I want to see if it's possible. So it was only like $90, and I was working as a dishwasher at the time at Penn State. So I was like, all right, I'm going to book it. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to go out there and see what this has to offer. So I went to Cali and trained with the Tibetan monk for a weekend. And I was, that was kind of like popping the seal for me. That was like just brand new, trying something new, dabbling in this idea of Tumo. But for me, so I'll be honest with you, it was cool to be able to like connect with people from all over that were there for this seminar, because like the way that they had shared, like talked about it, is that like the Tibetan monks just don't really bring a lot of people into this type of training because it's like a sacred art, but this guy was kind of like breaking the norm and just going to these states to talk about his special training. And anyway, I'm there for the weekend, and it's a lot of just sitting. and like crossing your legs, and then you like breathe in, you hold your breath, and you do some like exercise movements with your arms while you're sitting there. And, you know, the first couple of times I didn't really feel anything, but by the end I felt it. But the thing for me was like, that's cool, but like Wim Hof is climbing mountains. Wim Hof is swimming in ice water. He's climbing Everest. He's like what he's most known for is being in a box. It's called a Perspex box, but they actually fill it all the way up with ice up to his neck. And he sits in there for plus hour and a half, right? And that's the record that he's most known for breaking. And so this guy is like doing crazy stuff. He's not sitting on the ground, keeping himself warm. So like I left Cali, even though it was like a unique and crazy experience, I left Cali a little bit disappointed because like it worked, but it's like, how does that even translate to what this guy is doing on the Discovery Channel, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, basically talk to us about Tumo. I mean, so you're doing this breathing exercise, and then what are you doing with your arms?
Yeah. So there was a couple things. The thing that I remember the most, and like I don't do this now, like Tumo is not needed to do what Wim Hof does, but the Eastern Tibetan monks, part of what they would do is they would breathe it in. You would pretend that there's like a fire at the place of your navel, and you would kind of like tighten your abs. And then one of the things that you would do is kind of like a bow and arrow. So like it's like keeping your core very tight and together, legs crossed, and then breath in your lungs, and you're holding it for like a minute, and you're just kind of like doing these things, and you just kind of like switch it back and forth over and over again. And it's also like, and you know, not saying anything to any other traditions or religions or anything like that, but like a big part of it was Buddhism as well. Like when they were sharing it, they were also sharing like, hey, so you need to like visualize that you're transcending into this woman being, and that like they had a picture of her, and this is what you should be doing. And so for me going into it is like, I just want to understand how this could objectively work so that I could teach other people. Like if this is a thing that could be taught and like caught on by anybody, I want to figure out, like, show me that, like the principles of it. And so the stuff worked without like, you know, pretending to be something else, but it just, again, didn't translate into running barefoot in the snow and like actively moving and staying warm in cold temperatures.
Right. So the temperatures when you flew out to Cali, what were they when you were doing this, or was it still warm?
Oh, yeah, this is May. It was like May.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but they dropped the temperature in this place. Yeah, but it was after I got back to Penn State where I reached out to Wim for the first time. Like I told you, I was a little bit disappointed. But I started watching a lot of his YouTube videos. At the time, there's only like 3 or 4, and he wasn't making YouTube videos. It was like people, after he would do a world record, they would like shoot a infrared thermometer at his body and the people in the room, and you could see that his body was a lot warmer than everybody else's. And the same thing in like a freezing box, his body was still warm. And so at the end of one of those videos, they actually had a link to his website, and it was in Dutch. And on his website, I found an email. And I reached out to him through email, and I said, hey, I'm this guy from Penn State. I saw you on the Discovery Channel. I trained with some Tibetan monks. I feel like what they're doing is cool, but it's not what you're doing. I know they're saying that what you have is a genetic defect, but I really feel like what you could do could be taught and learned by anybody. And honestly, I'd love to ask you some questions. I'd love to learn from you. And I would love to, if it's cool, help you share with other people how to do what you can do. So that was like the first encounter, and he responded in like a half hour.
So the first correspondence was just via email.
Yeah, via email. This guy on the other side of the world in Europe, in Amsterdam.
That's awesome. Well, just to take a quick little break. Thank you to Sheets. Thank you to Lem's Shoes. Sheets run and done. Thank you to Andrew Rademacher. If you guys don't know about Lem's Shoes, look them up. Awesome shoe company, minimalist shoe company, zero drop, super light. Have you heard about Lem's before, Justin?
Yeah. Andrew Rademacher.
Yep.
Good guy.
Yeah. Moved the operation out to Colorado and Boulder a few years back. Grown like wildfire. But yeah, thank you to Lem's for the sponsorship. Awesome. So, I mean, the interesting thing though is that you bring up, you know, just simply sending somebody an email. I haven't, you know, on this show, I haven't had any like, you know, I haven't had the president of the United States on here, right? But I mean, like, I have randomly reached out to people via email or via like direct message on Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, you would be surprised that, there's a decent amount of people that check it or will respond or something like that. So just if anybody's watching this, it's like, hey, you never know in life. You just never know.
Yeah.
And you never know
It's
what,
true.
you never know what connections, God will use for your path. And you never know. I mean, so that's just very interesting.
Yeah.
Via email, there you went. So, I mean, what I'm gathering from this is at the very beginning, this was all a little part of the beginning of your faith journey, correct?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Cause like this kid from Sharon, I mean, I know that you've interviewed people that are now like part of pro sports teams, started like minimalist shoe companies, but still like, it's interesting to think that, as somebody that's come from the Shenango Valley, which feels like a small town, small area, you don't feel like, I don't know, it just feels like sometimes a place that you can feel like you're going to be stuck in, And so to see yourself start to do things that are affecting other people in a positive way. And at the time, like I'm still going back to Sharon and I'm connecting with people. I'm playing Ultimate Frisbee in Ville Park. I'm like, and I met so many people there. Anyway, like you just start to notice things that, I don't know, man. What I really want to say is I feel like that trip to Cali for me was like, I'd never traveled anywhere. I'd gone to Sharon and I went to Penn State and like, that was it. I'd gone back and forth. So for me flying out to Cali on my own, like saving up my own money as a dishwasher, was like, okay, if I could do that, maybe I could take another step to try something else. And so that was kind of like, I'm going to reach out to this guy. If he doesn't respond, cool. But I'm going to at least try, So what you were just saying there about like, what's it going to hurt to at least reach out? And now there's Instagram. You could DM people. You could like tweet people. Like that wasn't really an option 12 years ago.
Yeah. Not to say that 12 years ago was anything ancient, but yes, absolutely.
Right,
now, I mean, the world is our oyster, so to speak, for people that have social media. Although there are many, many, many negatives about social media, there are some positives about social media. That is definitely one of them. People are very
For sure.
Reachable. All right, so you decide to reach out to him via email. What the heck does he say?
Yeah, he said, I won't be able to find it real quick, but it's in the book. In short, he says, hey, Justin, yes, I'd love to teach you. Anybody can do it. Anybody can learn. Let's make it work. He's like, you just got to do it. And so I just started asking him questions back and forth and he would respond. I think I said it was May, but I remember it being cold. Like I wanted to it was in the middle of me wanting to try this actively. So I think me going to Cali was more like the fall side of things, not spring. So like he's then giving me tips of how to be able to keep your hands warm when it's freezing outside, when it's super windy or when it's snowing. Because like when you're in the cold, the first thing that gets cold is like your fingertips, your nose, your toes, and your ears, right? And so he would share that for him, what he would do, and again, remember, he's in like Poland, he's in Amsterdam. Yeah, no, that's a great one though. With your sheets cup there, that's what you got to do on the way in.
Put some hot chocolate in there.
Yes. Yes, that's the way to keep yourself warm.
Absolutely.
But for him, what he would share is like he would just go out and find rock boulders and he would climb them. He would put his hands against them and he would like legit climb the freezing rock. So that's what he shared that I should do. Like I should just find stuff that's freezing outside and start to put my hands on it, start to put my feet on it, and start to build like a tolerance to it. So here is the very radical difference between Tumo and what Wim does. So like the Western way, which I guess you could say is what Wim does, is like it's gradual exposure over time. So the same way that you would train for a marathon or you would train to do any type of like endurance exercise. If you're gonna swim, I don't know, I think it's swim, man, triathlon, Tough Mudder. You got to train for that stuff. If you're going to just jump in, there's a chance you're going to pull something, you're going to hurt something. Same thing for the cold. If you try to like jump in, with ice up to your neck the first time, chances are you might get frostbite, you might get hypothermia. You got to be able to build up a tolerance and gradual exposure over time. So there are some techniques, some things that you can do, but it's more of like training your body to figure out what to do once you're in there and how to be able to withstand it, how to stay calm. Like, have you ever been in a shower where it just all of a sudden turns cold?
Yeah, I usually scream like a little girl.
Yes, that's good. That's good. That's normal. You're not alone. Me too. But there's four stages of the cold. So this is what I learned through my experience with Wim. So like he would say, you got to put your hand on a freezing rock, right? But when do you know is the right time to take your hand off? When do you know is the right time to take yourself out of the cold so that you don't get frostbites, you don't get hypothermia? And so for me, it came from like trial and error through this stuff. I had to be able to figure out, all right, this is level 1, this is level 2, this is level 3. Level 4, you're getting either hypothermia or frostbite. And so when you go into a freezing cold shower, let's just say it suddenly happens, right? There is that initial shock phase. So I would call it stage 1. So that's where your body is like reacting, you're reflexing, you're trying to like, you're just freaking out, you're hating it, and you immediately want to pull out. You want to do everything you can to get out of that situation. Same thing, somebody falls through like a pocket of ice and they're in ice water. You're just trying to frantically get out of there. In the freezing cold shower, if you push beyond like 30 to 60 seconds and just do everything that you can to relax, there is a place where your body will adapt to the cold and your body will relax. You will no longer have the gasping response. You won't be freaking out. You won't feel like you got to get out of it anymore. So that's stage 2. That's where you're like actually adapt to the cold temperature. So you can stay in there for a decent amount of time. And then there's stage 3. Stage 3 is like you could call it like the tingling stage. It's where your fingertips, your toes, like whatever's exposed to the cold, you'll start to get like this tingling sensation, and your intuition will start to tell you like, hey, maybe I should, like, now is the time to get out. It's not like a strong, like there's this pain. It's more of like your body knows it's time for me to get out of here. Because at this time you're comfortable, you're fine. You're like, oh, I can do this, right? I can do this forever. But then there's like this tingling sensation that kind of like your foot's falling asleep that you start to feel. That's when it's like, all right, that's the time to get out. Stage 4 is when all that stuff goes away. You feel the tingling and then it's gone. You start to get like slow motor skills. You don't feel it. And that's when you're starting to get into hypothermia, frostbite, all the stuff. So that's the stuff that I learned when training in the cold personally through the stuff that Wim was teaching me through email. I had a horrible experience at Penn State though, like learning that before I actually learned all of that, right? I almost got hypothermia. I almost got frostbite from my first attempt trying to do what Wim can do in the cold, and it was like kind of sucked.
Which your first attempt was what?
So my first attempt was so Wim and I are talking back and forth through email. Tons of snow poured that day, and I was like, man, I'm gonna go run barefoot in the snow like Wim Hof. I'm gonna just do it, right? Because in his emails he would often say, just do it. So I'm like, I'm gonna just do it. So I thought, all right, I'm gonna put on I'll bring like 2 pairs of socks. I will put on some sandals. I will wear some shorts. I'll put a towel in my backpack, and I'm just gonna go like, so I'm at my apartment at Penn State University, and I'm at like the edge of the campus. I can go back through the woods. I'll pass a Burger King, and then there's like a park that no one's gonna be in at nighttime. Plus it's snowing. Like I just figured I'll go there. I'll walk around barefoot, and I'll come back. So it's like a 10-minute walk/jog to this park, 10-minute walk back. I'm like, I could do this. Like, I'll just wear all my warm gear and go over there. So I do that. It's nightfall. It's poured a lot of snow. And I take my backpack. I leave. I start like hiking to this park. So like I said, 10-minute walk there. And by the like 5-7 minutes, I'm passing this Burger King and my feet are freezing. So again, they're not barefoot yet, right? I'm walking in kind of like, I have these Chaco sandals. So they're sandal. Are you familiar? So they're sandals. They have holes. They're kind of like Crocs, but they strap on, right? So I'm walking in these, and just wasn't a good idea. But my feet are already freezing. They're wet from the snow, and I don't feel them. And they're starting to like, I'm feeling like this like daggers on the bottom of my feet. And I'm like, I didn't even make it to the park yet, right? So I push on. I get there 3 minutes later, and I sit on a bench, and I'm like, all right, well, this sucks. Like, no one really knows that I'm here right now. I can't just call a friend to come pick me up because it's going to be like an awkward conversation. No one knows what I'm doing. Also, like, everything hurts right now. I'm already freezing. I didn't get to do any type of training. I didn't take off like any parts of my clothes. I'm still wearing like a hoodie. and my feet are soaked. So I'm like, all right, I gotta like, I just need to get back home because this sucks right now. So I'm sitting there for like 5-10 minutes. I pull out my phone. My hands are starting to like, I'm losing motor skills in my hands. So I try to pull out my phone. It drops into the snow and then it dies because it's like an old school flip phone and it gets filled with water and I can't call anybody anymore. So I'm like, man, this is ridiculous. Like, I just feel very discouraged. I'm in the middle. Like, this is just horrible experience for me. So I'm like, all right, I just need to get back home. So I take off my socks. I put on the extra pair of socks that I have on to try to like warm my feet up. And I get my towel to like just try to dry off any part of my body that's already wet. And it's like continuing to pour down more snow. So I'm like, I just need to get home as quick as possible. So I throw in all my stuff. I start like power walking back through the snow. And again, there's like 5 to 7 inches of snow right now that I'm just kind of like going through. No Iceman trick. Like, I did not intentionally take off anything to go run through it yet. I've just been trying to get to that point. But now I'm just like trying to endure it and survive out here. So I walk 5 minutes back. I'm passing this Burger King and I can't take it anymore. I can't feel my feet. They feel like blocks, but yet there's still this pain inside that is like aching and throbbing. And I feel like I'm going to lose them because I did not know those 4 stages. I thought I was going to die being out there, no training whatsoever. This guy on the internet is emailing me saying, just do this stuff. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And no one's going to know how or why I died like this. So my mind is probably exaggerating. But when you're in the cold and you don't know what's going to happen, you jump to these things. So anyway, I walk into Burger King. I think it's like a Friday or Saturday night. And at Penn State, at least back then, it was a huge party school, one of the top. So everybody's like eating fast food. And so I am walking into Burger King in flip-flops and Choco sandals, socks on, just looking ridiculous, soaked in snow. And like at this point, I don't really care. I just like need to sit down and warm up because I feel like I'm going to die. So I go back into the corner. I just drop all my stuff. I find like, I think 80 cents in my pocket. I go get a cup of coffee and I sit down and I like just take off my socks. I'm trying to warm them up and I just can't feel anything. And so in that moment, again, just super discouraged, just trying to like do anything to heat up, drink this coffee, just get warm. And I just feel like a massive failure because again, I'm just thinking like, who am I? Who am I to even think that I could try anything like this? So fast forward 10 minutes, like the pain is starting to like go away a little bit. I'm starting to feel my toes and I'm like, I just need to get back home. So I throw in all my wet stuff. I leave. I sprint back home as much as I can actually sprint, get home. About 10 minutes later, there's still significantly more snow. I throw up all my stuff in my apartment and I turn on, some water, some warm water. I'm like, I just need to warm up. So I take off my shoes, I take off my socks, I jump into the warm bath and I feel like my body is exploding because all of my freezing body parts and the blood vessels that were like, there's no blood in them right now, right? There's no blood because it's like all shunted away because of the cold. I put it in warm water and they feel like they're exploding as like all the warm blood is rushing back in. And so I just feel like I'm going to die again. And again, I know it feels like everything is like 10 for me. And I'm also feel like, dude, you're fine. But in the midst of it and not knowing what was going to happen next, it just felt like the worst experience of my life. And so I feel like I've done permanent damage to my feet, either from the cold or from shocking them with like what felt like 110-degree water, and it was so disheartening to me. I finally warmed back up, laid in my bed and just like was staring at the sky, like staring at the bunk bed I was in. I was like, God, why? Just why? Like, why did I have to go through all this stuff? This sucked. Like, I just wanted to understand more of like the Bible. And now I'm like almost getting frostbite and hypothermia. Like, what the heck am I supposed to do? And for whatever reason, just being stupid or like near hypothermia or just a college kid, I was like, all right, I'm going to give this one more shot. Like my body is readjusted. I feel normal again. Still kind of like, I don't know. Wim is not making this stuff up. He's able to do these world records. So I'm like, I just got to try something.
So I go back into front porch. I take off my socks again. Again, I'm like back at normal body temperature. It's like an hour later, and I just like step off into the snow barefooted, and I was fine. It felt fine. It felt cool. It felt refreshing, and it was peaceful. There was nothing going on outside, and I just remember thinking that like, why didn't I start with this from the beginning? Why didn't I just take a little step and try it instead of just trying to do the extreme? And so I was able to stay there for like a minute or 2 minutes before it just felt uncomfortable and I needed to come out. And so, I mean, I did. I went back inside and I'm like, all right, let me do more baby steps. Let me try to figure out how not to do what Wim is doing, you know, just immediately jumping into like barefoot runs in the snow, but how can I do something that anybody could do at home, in their college dorm, whatever, to start to build up a tolerance to the cold like Wim Hof. And so for me, I needed something. Go ahead.
But you're telling me that, so after you get back and your feet are literally about to fall off, an hour later you go and you just step barefoot in the snow. That was just an hour later. It wasn't days later or weeks later. This was an hour later.
Yeah. Yeah, an hour later.
That's nuts, man.
Yeah, it was. It was. But, you know, at college, you don't have much time. It's like you're doing classes, and then the weekend's the weekend. It felt like if I was going to do this, it doesn't snow that often, at least at the time that it was. So I'm like, I just got to make it happen.
And so I have, you know, for high school and a little bit into college, you know, for sports, I have been in an ice bath.
Yeah.
I've never been, it's not, you know, you're not fully submerged, but it's usually just like your waist. And I do feel like the first 15, 20 seconds, I mean, you're like, holy crap, this is cold. And then, you know, after your legs go numb, you're pretty much just chilling there for a while. I don't think I've been in there long enough to actually start to feel any pain, like you were saying, like, hey, it's definitely time for me to get out. What in an ice bath, I mean, how many minutes do you think that takes before your body's like, hey, I probably should get out?
I think it depends. So just ice, no water or anything like that?
Yeah, it was just ice.
Yeah. I think it depends. If you were working out, if you're doing any type of exercise and your body is already warm, you could last a lot longer because your body needs to cool down. But I don't know, man. It really depends person to person. But if it was just ice up to half of your body, you could probably do 10 minutes, no problem. My wife was telling me how she got what felt like to her frostbite when she like used to play softball in Hermitage. She slipped and she had ice on her heel for like a half hour. And after she took it off, it was like dark blue, it was purple. The ice was like sticking to her skin and part of her skin was coming off. You know, so like it kind of depends the way that the ice is sitting on you. Typically it's melting. It just, there's a lot of factors that go into it. But you can definitely, so like, let me give you a quick example. So me going into the cold, that radical experience the first time, that shocked me. What's interesting about any type of cold training is that after you do it the first time, there's like a quick learning curve. It's like super quick. So like you jump into a cold shower or you do one of my, so I created these cold water immersions. So like there's this, I call it an ice bucket exercise where you either put your hand or your foot into a bucket of ice water. You put salt, ice, water into it. It drops down to like 40 to 43 degrees. And then you put your hand in it. So then you very quickly feel like you feel the different stages. Stage 1 is shock. It's painful. I want to pull out. And then maybe like 45 seconds in, you're good. You could relax, right? So the next time that you do it, it might have taken you 45 seconds to adjust the first time. The next time you could adjust in like 20 seconds and you could last maybe like 3 minutes longer. Like you can build up a tolerance super, super, super quick. It's not like doing a lot of radical training over time. It's like your body just needs to learn how to relax in the crazy environments to be able to stay in it longer. So like the shunting of the blood when you put your hands in cold water and like the shivering, none of that is really effective. It's kind of like a reflexive mechanism. What is helpful is staying calm and letting your body kind of maintain more surface area of your blood. So instead of like pulling all of your blood to your core because it's like freaking out, fight or flight, if you actually stay calm and let it like just chill, no pun intended, you just let it just relax and chill all over, like you could actually stay a lot longer in cold temperatures. And so, yeah, like just knowing that you could do it the first time really just builds up a lot of like, you could just take on a lot more. I don't know how to say it another way.
Yeah. So in a few minutes, we're going to get to the rapid fire round, but let's at least start here.
Yeah.
We got about 20 minutes left. Let's at least start with you eventually going to see Wim Hof. So if you can just kind of take us through that, and then I'll stop you probably midway with the rapid fire, because we got to get to the rapid fire. We got to do it.
Sure, man. No problem. All right. So Wim and I are going back and forth through email. I'm coming up with these. I'm taking what he's telling me through email about how he would cut a hole in the middle of a lake and go swimming in it. And that would be his like cold exercise for the day. I started translating this stuff into things that I could do in my college apartment, on a, college budget. So I would fill up my bathtub with ice water. With water. I would then go to the dollar store down the street, buy a couple bags of ice, and then dump them in the bathtub. And then I would like sit in there for however long. I would start timing myself. I would start like making it a game, not pushing, because Wim would always say like, don't force it, because there is danger to it. I've experienced it, but it's like building again that tolerance. So I'm documenting my growth at this time. I'm also translating like how to be able to let my hands endure the cold a lot longer with those ice bucket exercises. So Wim and I are going back and forth through email. And then he's like, hey, man, so I'm going to be doing a training in Poland this summer. If you'd like to come, you should come. And so I'm like, all right, let's make this happen. I've never left the country before. I am going to be trusting this guy that I've only talked to through email, which at the time, everybody tells me that I should not just like trust random people I meet on the internet. But it just, it all just felt right. And again, this for me is a random faith journey. It's none that like, it's not a normal story. But anyway, I started saving up money as a dishwasher. I start focusing, like, I didn't really care about classes, but like I wanted to get better so that I could actually do this stuff. Like I needed to do well at classes so that I could actually afford the time to go and train with this guy in Poland. So do classes during the day, I'd work at night, and then I would occasionally do cold training. So eventually I got to go to Poland. And the week before I went over, and remember, this is a faith journey for me. The week before I went over, a plane went down in Poland with the Polish government. There's like 6 officials. And I even think like the president of Poland was on at the time, and everybody died. And so it was crazy, ridiculous timing in Poland. And I'm thinking, what the heck? I've never heard of anything about Poland. And then the week before I go over there, like the government is just gone. Like, is everybody going crazy in this? Like, is it safe to go over there? So I'm like I'm hearing it from my parents, just don't go over. I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like I still got to do this. So then a couple days go by, Icelandic volcano erupts and grounds all air traffic to Europe. Like now, like how is this, again, just crazy things, right? But it opens up just in time for me to go to Poland. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to Poland. I quit my job, I go over to Poland, and then I spend 10 days with Wim Hof diving into freezing cold lakes. We went over to this mountain called Karpacz in Poland, where I forget how tall it was, maybe 7,000 feet. But essentially, we climb up it in shorts. At the top of the mountain, we took off our shirts. We sat in a pile of snow and ice, sat there for a while. We tried to relax. Came back down the mountain. There is this giant waterfall with snow that is melted from the top of the mountain, has now come down. We take off our shoes. We're just in our swim trunks. We go into the mountain, stand underneath the mountain or underneath the waterfall, and letting all of this freezing cold water like pour all over our bodies, and doing like this intense like cold water training in the middle of Europe, where it's just all this crazy stuff. So while I'm there, I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Like, I never even thought I'd leave the country. And now I'm like with this random guy who's twice my age, an amazing, like, brilliant dude, speaks like 5 different languages, all taught himself, and he's like training me how to be like, and I'm like, I'm learning this stuff. My body is like building this tolerance to the cold. And like those exercises that I created in my dorm room, I like brought some of my friends, or my apartment, I brought some of my friends, and they were doing it and building up and like seeing the same progress. I'm like, this stuff freaking works. Like, this is awesome. So it got me amped, man. And so when I went to Poland, I'm like, my friends aren't going to be able to afford Poland. I need to show other people how to do the same thing. And so I guess that's a good place to pause. I go back home and I'm like, I just got to keep going.
So, I mean, even with the glove a little bit over here, I don't really care at this point. I have a couple more questions for you about that specific topic.
Yeah.
Why is Wim Hof doing this? Like, what does he care to pass, to push past these perceived limits in the cold?
Yeah, good question. So in the book, he talks about when he was younger, he felt like there was this void for him that couldn't be filled by anything that he's studying, anything he was learning. His mother was Catholic. There's just like, for him, there was nothing that actually like felt fulfilling, and grew up in Europe. And so one day he's in Poland, it's snowing outside, and he just feels called to go out into the cold. And so he does, and he is just walking around. It's very peaceful for him. It's very tranquil. He has been studying, yoga. He's been reading, ancient transcripts that he's finding just through books and stuff. And he's just trying to figure out, like, how do I stay peaceful? How do I like find my purpose in life? So he's kind of wandering around in the cold. He feels very relaxed. And then he just gets this feeling like, oh, there's like cold water here. I'm going to go jump into it and just go swim around. And so he does. He takes off his clothes. He goes into the cold water, and he holds his breath. He goes underwater. He comes back up. And there's this moment for him where he just feels like he felt peace in the cold. He felt relaxed. He felt like there was something that told him, like, this is what you're supposed to do. And he didn't know what it was. He didn't understand it. He just knew that he wanted to continue to do it. And so every day he would go back to the same spot, take off his clothes, go back into the cold water, go under, come back up, and then just keep doing that over and over again. And it became not for him like I'm going to go climb Everest in shorts. Like, it was more about like, how do I stay peaceful as a person? How do I find my purpose in life? How do I find something that fulfills me? And so for him, that was like just sounded silly. Now it's inspiring. Like, there's hundreds of thousands of people in a Facebook group talking about this stuff daily. People that are feeling that they are being finding healing in anxiety and depression from cold showers, from some of his breathing techniques. People that are like finding relief from Lyme's disease. He hasn't been sick in 40 years. They gave him, I'll just randomly say this and we can jump into whatever you want, but like, they did something, we talk about it in the book, but for him, there's a lot of immune system benefits too. So when I first met him, he told me he hadn't been sick in 40 years. I was just like, really? Like, how? Is that real? So they gave him, at Radboud University in Amsterdam, they brought him in to do this endotoxin experiment. And the endotoxin experiment is usually for like younger folk. They don't really give it to people that are like 50 and older, which Wim was. But the endotoxin experiment is where they actually fill your blood with toxin. And it gives you like flu, like think COVID for 8 hours. And it's kind of like, we're just going to make you feel sick because we want to see how your body reacts to like a stressful state, right? Hey, Mark, good to see you. Jumping into the chat here. So you want to see how your body is reacting to that crazy state. So he finally got accepted to do it because he's now becoming a little bit more famous and people want to see how his body's actually reacting to the cold. And so they shoot him full of endotoxin and then they're monitoring his body. And within 5 minutes, he starts to develop this headache. But then he just does what he does when he's in the cold. He like just starts relaxing and breathing and just focusing. And then a minute later, it's gone. No side effects, didn't get the fever, didn't get anything else that anybody else would have gotten. And for them, it was like, holy crap, this guy is like actually has the ability to suppress the inflammatory marked blood cells in his body, which is like, it just causes like crazy stress, and your body freaks out when you go, like people are like, oh, you're going to catch a cold if you go out in the cold. But it's like your body reacting in crazy ways, just trying to survive and adapt. But for him, he's like, just relax, like it'll be fine. So anyway, I'm going all over the place.
No, that's awesome. I mean, so do you currently? I mean, I gotta start taking freezing cold showers, man. I mean, what the heck? Are you yourself right now? Like, do you take freezing cold showers, or do you still do these exercises?
I do them from time to time. So Wim would even tell you he loves warm showers. He loves a sauna. He still gets cold. It's a choice, though. It's like when you go out into, like for me, all year round, I will wear flip-flops. I'll wear shorts. I'll wear T-shirts. That was in Pennsylvania, too, even before I got down to Charlotte. It still gets cold here. But, like, it's more of, like, you could turn it on at any point. It's a decision when going out into the cold, like, I'm not going to like, kind of like shrivel up with this. I'm going to take this on. So that's kind of what the experience is for me. Like I can switch the shower to cold, and I do from time to time. In my YouTube videos, I even have like, I'm having conversations about Iceman stuff with people, and I have my hand in an ice bucket, while we're having a conversation for 20, 30 minutes, just to like do that type of training. Like it's like turning it on now whenever I want. So my body's just used to it. And now it's just like, that stuff translates into other areas of life, like if you could figure out how to stay calm in a freezing cold shower, or something that is like telling your body you're gonna die or whatever, then like anything else is fine, man. Like it's not that big of a deal. It's just like you could be peaceful in a lot more crazy things, right?
No, it's very true. I think maybe tonight I might take an ice cold shower, man. I mean, I just need I need to get past that like 20, 30-second point. That's all.
Yes. Stage 2, level 2. We make it sound like a game. Yeah,
there you go. All right, folks, you're on the Zip Code with Justin Rosales, and he co-authored a book with Wim Hof, Becoming the Iceman. Do you have the book there?
I do. Yeah. This is my, so I'm, there you go. There you go. Becoming the Iceman. Yeah. This is, I'm currently, so we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of publishing the book. And so I'm going to be doing an updated version this year. But since the book's been out for 10 years and this version is going to go away, I've been recording an audiobook version of it for anybody to listen to whenever they want for free on YouTube and Instagram. So
awesome.
I'm in that spot right now.
Fantastic. All right, we're gonna get to the rapid fire round real quick. I'm gonna fire some stuff for you, just a lot of random stuff, and then we'll get to just some last minute questions here, folks. If you do have any other questions for Justin, let us know in the chat. We'll get to them. All right, here we go. Rapid fire round. Justin Rosales, some random stuff.
Let's do it.
Here we go. Favorite vacation spot?
Ooh, good one. Man, I love Europe. Anytime I can get to Europe, let's go to Europe.
Great call. Favorite food?
Pizza.
Morning or night?
Morning.
Hamburgers or hot dogs?
Hamburgers.
Cats or dogs?
Gosh. Cats.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Dessert or appetizer?
Dessert.
Hard or soft pillow?
Soft pillow.
Coldest you've ever been?
Temperature?
Temperature.
Temperature. I haven't checked my body. That time I almost freeze though near Burger King was a pretty bad one.
One interesting fact that most people don't know about Justin Rosales.
I did a 5K barefoot in the snow in the polar circle with Wim Hof for a world record attempt.
That would be something most people probably don't know about you.
Probably, yeah.
On average, how many hours of sleep do you get?
7. Yeah.
Steak or chicken?
Ooh, steak.
Rare, medium, or well?
Well done. I'm sorry. Well done. Yeah.
Favorite country besides the United States?
Ooh, I love Amsterdam.
Favorite salad dressing?
Caesar.
One thing you're afraid of?
Hmm. Uh, uh, lo- losing, losing my family. Yeah.
Hot or cold?
Ooh, cold. Come on, man.
And
Yeah.
last but not least, one of the most important questions I may ask you on the show: where will the zip code be in 5 years?
I think it's going to have to change its name. What is you need this needs to go international, man. It can't be the zip code. If like that is a domestic thing. People use postal codes, we need to go international.
Very true. Very true. And with
Yeah,
that, folks, the rapid fire round is complete. I'm looking back on a lot of those questions that I just asked you. A lot of those were food questions, man.
there were.
A lot of food questions. But hot or cold? If you would have said hot, I would have had to just end the show. I would have ended.
Yeah,
No
game
more
over.
questions. You think Wim would ever come on this show?
I don't know, man. Maybe. I haven't chatted with him about this yet.
Does he do shows?
He does. He does. I mean, this time is really busy for him. He's doing so he does a lot of a lot of training right now. He takes people into ice baths. He climbs up mountains with them, shows them how to be able to conquer their fears, how to be able to stay warm. He actually takes people up in shorts and sandals, shirtless, climbing up mountains to get a similar experience. And so that's like his thing. That's what he does. That's his day job. That plus a lot of the scientific stuff to prove, just to prove the new stuff. They're rewriting textbooks, sharing how the body can actually adapt to the cold in different ways.
So, what in the book, what are some of the? I mean, do you write half of it? He writes half of it. Is it from your perspective, his perspective? You talk about the training. What exactly are some of the pillars in the book, so to speak? Because I'd like to read the book. I think it'll be fascinating, man.
Sure. Yeah. So the book is Wim's story and my story. Half the book is him, half the book is me. And his half is like how he became, like I was telling you the stories, how he first got exposed to the cold, what his experience looked like climbing Mount Everest, Kilimanjaro, a lot of his world records that he attempted, what it was like for him the first time going into it. A lot of people don't know, but Wim actually got frostbite from that same Discovery Channel video that I was telling you about, where he's pushing his body to the extreme. Like he got frostbite that day, and dude actually cured it. Like he healed it a few months later, which is just like mind blowing, right? So anyway, all of those stories are in there, and then my half is like how anybody else could do it, how a random person could pick up these exercises and do the same thing. And mine is also a little bit of my story. You hear me going to California in more detail, the trip in Poland, all the different exercises we did together. When we went to Spain and climbed different mountains and did more training there. When we went to Finland is in there. So it's kind of like Wim's story, my story, and we kind of come together in Poland and our stories start to overlap, and you hear a little bit more of the journey of us doing it together, with the final chapter being us attempting world records together in Finland together, and then it ends with the different exercises that anybody can do it.
So we'll kind of cap it off with this. Current world records that you and him both hold, or just him, or world records at a time that they had or you had?
Yeah. So full transparency, on the flight back from Finland, our storage device is cracked. And so we lost the footage that we needed to be able to prove that I did a 5K and he did a 10K officially with Guinness World Record. It was unofficial. It's fine. I don't care. Like, it was cool that we did it. It would have been neat, but like, it was also a humbling moment that It's just like, I just needed to do it to prove it. And since then, so many other people have done the 5K. They beat my time. My time was like, for a 5K barefoot in the snow in Finland, it was 29 minutes, I think 34 seconds. And I mean, that's not a great 5K time. It's pretty good for being in the snow, but people have run faster than that in the snow. I mean, the whole point of it for me was to show that anybody else can do it. And significantly more people have done that now, are doing it all the time, have adopted it, have found healing. People reached out to me saying that like they had been had been taking asthma medications for years, but now didn't have to do it because they started doing the cold training that we had taught in the book and like are now cured of asthma and like arthritis, like that type of stuff was more fulfilling. And we started with the faith journey. For me, it's like, I didn't die throughout all this. Literally every step that I took climbing up mountains, and just like doing these things is like, it seems very random, but in it, I'm like, God, the only way I'm going to get through it is if like you help me, because I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm doing stuff that people say I should die doing, like being in these cold temperatures, training with this person in Europe, climbing these mountains, running a 5K in the snow, like could definitely get frostbite from all that. But I mean, I found God in all of it. 10 years later, I'm working at a church, like connecting with people internationally around the world, hearing crazy stories about how God is moving in their neck of the woods. Like that stuff is, I think the Iceman stuff was cool. It's just neat to see where it led me after that. Today. And so like even the stuff that I'm doing now with Practice Your Passion, it's more of like, I just want to help people find what their purpose is, you know, like with COVID, everybody got super pumped to be able to have more time to do what they were excited about. Just be cool if we actually did what you did, start a Instagram live and encourage and inspire people, share people's stories and get them to do what they actually want to do with their time and make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's definitely inspiring. And one of the things that I was thinking about was when you're over there training with him, just to backtrack a little bit, what were some of those temperatures?
Yeah. So in the top of, okay. So one thing to note is when you're in freezing cold water, water sucks away heat 30 times faster than it does air. So that's why you could run a half marathon barefoot in the snow and be fine. It's cool because you're like in air temperature, but you can't last as long in freezing cold waters. So as soon as you get into the 40s, like it's not going to feel like a lot. So when we were in swimming around in cold waters, like I said, underneath the waterfall, we were only in a waterfall for like 5 to 10 minutes because it's not just cold water, it's running water that's sucking away all of the heat, you know? But in Finland, I think it was like 25 degrees. Penn State was colder though. Penn State, I ran in -9 degrees Fahrenheit with wind chill. Like, it's Happy Valley. You're running in a mountain. It's freezing out there. Yeah, Finland was pretty freezing though. I found out, I'm sorry, I got excited. I found out that reindeers are real 10 years ago when I was in Finland, when they told me in Finland, this is reindeer, eat your soup. Like there was reindeer in my soup and it was real. Like I thought they were a myth. Like, dude, I was so ignorant. I didn't know much about the world at all. And then you just throw this random kid on the other side of the world. Just being real.
Hey, we got some We Are chants out there. My boy Ty Cole.
We are, yeah.
Yeah, man. 2 Penn State folk here, baby. All right, so Justin, man, seriously, thanks for coming on the time. Show the book again, guys. Pick up a copy of that book. I seriously do want to read that. Becoming the Iceman. Yeah. Justin co-authors it with Wim Hof. Dude, thanks for coming on the show, man. Appreciate it. We'll get this uploaded to YouTube, and then in the future, man, I think now you can get a multiple guests. And so if there's any time that you and Wim would come on, I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Cool, man. Appreciate the opportunity. This has been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, thanks for tuning into the Zip Code. Appreciate your time, and be looking for some more guests in the coming weeks. We took a large hiatus, but we are back. Thank you to Sheets. Thank you to Lem Shoes, and thank you for Justin for his time. And folks, as I always say, I love you, Shenango Valley. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks, Justin. We'll catch you later, man.
See you guys soon.